He's back talking about Jimmy Kimmel, and Trump loses again because Disney is going to reinstate Jimmy Kimmel. Jimmy Kimmel will have more to say on late night TV. Disney and ABC is going to bring back the comedian to his schedule starting Tuesday night. I know Donald Trump won't be happy, and the stations group as well. But remember that stations group said, hey, you know, he should apologize and he should donate to Turning Point USA. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I know this is a Trump taco without Trump even being involved, at least in the decision. ABC said they thought better of it. They suspended production on the program, they said, because they thought they were trying to cool the temperature in the country, and that they didn't want to further inflame a tense situation at an emotional moment for the country. It's a decision we made because we felt some of the comments were ill-timed and thus insensitive. We have spent the last days having thoughtful conversations with Jimmy, and after those conversations, we reached the decision to return the show on Tuesday. Donald Trump is going to lose his mind because he loses again. Free speech wins.
Meanwhile,
I have another crazy update for you on Jimmy Kimmel's show being brought back by Disney. Sinclair Broadcast Group, the largest owner of local ABC stations across the country, says that they will still not air Jimmy Kimmel's show. In a new statement, Sinclair said, beginning Tuesday night, Sinclair will be preempting Jimmy Kimmel Live across our ABC affiliate stations and replacing it with news programming. Discussions with ABC are ongoing as we evaluate the show's potential return. Sinclair has also demanded that Jimmy Kimmel publicly apologize and donate to Turning Point USA. But I gotta be honest, this statement is not surprising at all. Sinclair is a full-blown MAGA group. Like, for example, David Smith, the executive chairman of Sinclair, donated $250,000 to Turning Point USA last year. They've also forced a lot of their local stations to read MAGA talking points word for word regarding fake news or CNN or whatever. So screw Sinclair and screw any of these broadcasting groups who continue to bend the knee to Donald Trump. As I've said in previous videos, we will remember that. We will remember the cowardice of these executives at these companies.
All right, guys, so we got to continue our coverage of the fallout that has happened as a result of Jimmy Kimmel being temporarily pulled off air by Disney, ABC, affiliates, broadcast companies over his lies that he told on his comedy show, in which he basically claimed that the assassin of Charlie Kirk was MAGA, right? That was a lie. Okay, the assassin is far left. Okay, everybody knows that the assassin is far left, unless you're watching MSDNC and CNN and mainstream level media. But if you're getting your news from real news sources, yes, everybody should understand that Jimmy Kimmel lied. Okay, and ultimately today, as a result of that lie, he was canceled, at least temporarily. The mob, the liberal mob, the Democrats started boohoo, whining, and crying, talking about, this is an attack on free speech. Even though, again, this is not an attack on free speech. The Trump administration did not pressure ABC or Disney to do anything, right? They made the decision based off, I guess, business and what they thought was in the best interest of their company. But again, that didn't stop the mainstream liberal media from running these lies, claiming that somehow, some way, Trump had something to do with it. Now, lo and behold, it hasn't been a week since Jimmy Kimmel was canceled, and Disney is already folding to the mob and bringing him back, right? Except there's one problem. You have some of these local affiliates, right? These local broadcast stations like Nexstar and Sinclair saying, you know what? We don't want to bring him back, right? Disney may bring him back, right? But we still do not want to broadcast Jimmy Kimmel on our ABC networks, right? And that is the current situation that we're in right now. Again, it seems as if you have some issues between the local affiliates and Disney in regards to this decision to bring back Jimmy Kimmel. So he might be back, but he's not going to be back on all stations, at least as of the making of this video. Take a look.
Despite Disney's decision to reinstate Jimmy Kimmel Live tonight, ABC's largest affiliate owner, Sinclair, and now Nexstar have decided they are not airing tonight's show. Nexstar says it'll continue preempting the show until they see change. Quote, "We stand by that decision pending assurance that all parties are committed to fostering an environment of respectful, constructive dialogue in the markets we serve." Nexstar owns 28 ABC affiliates, including in large markets Nashville, Salt Lake City, and New Orleans. This comes after Sinclair yesterday said it still won't air Kimmel on its 40 ABC affiliates, including in Washington, D.C., Seattle, Portland, and St. Louis. Sinclair says it's replacing the show with news programming as it continues discussions with ABC. The decision to air Jimmy Kimmel Live again was reportedly made by Disney CEO Bob Iger after the company says it spent the last few days having, quote, thoughtful conversations with Jimmy after he made those controversial comments about Charlie Kirk's assassination. In a statement, Disney explained for the first time why it suspended Kimmel. Quote, "Last Wednesday, we made the decision to suspend production on the show to avoid further inflaming a tense situation at an emotional moment for our country. It is a decision we made because we felt some of the comments were ill-timed and thus insensitive. It is not clear whether Kimmel will apologize tonight, but Sinclair is demanding Kimmel issue a direct apology to the Kirk family and to make a meaningful personal donation to the family and Turning Point USA. Harris, Charlie Kirk's Turning Point USA, is applauding Sinclair's demand for accountability. Disney's decision comes amid pressure from the left, everything from boycotts to condemnations from the Screen Actors Guild and the ACLU. Harris?
Yeah, so you seen that, you heard that, okay? Sinclair and Nexstar, they're sticking to their guns. They're saying, no, Jimmy Kimmel has not satisfied us, right? Disney, you may be folding to the woke mob, but we're not, right? We still do not want this guy on our airways, okay? And hey, they're a private company. They can make whatever decisions they want to make, okay? Again, this is not about free speech. This is about the fact that they're a private company making a decision that they feel is best for their business, okay? A private company is not required to hire anybody or to employ anybody that damages their business, right? I'm not entirely sure why liberals think that we should live in a world where you are required to employ liberals, even if liberals are directly affecting your business in a negative way. Sounds to me like the actual attack on free speech is liberals basically saying that private companies should be allowed to fire liberals, right, who damage their businesses, okay? They don't have the freedom of disassociation. You can't disassociate yourself from liberals. Now, remember, these are the same people who were celebrating when companies decided that, you know what, we're going to fire conservatives for saying things that we feel hurt our business. They were totally fine with that, right? They totally understood that. They cheered that on. But now, all of a sudden, when it happens to them, they're upset. They're boo-hoo-whined and crying. And, of course, you have liberals upset with Sinclair and Nexstar for their decision. So, of course, they're now going to try to target these companies because of their decision to continue to preempt Jimmy Kimmel's show.
To the Turning Point USA. And they are completely right-wing. They are part of the big Project 2025 takeover of all of our media. Listen to some of these facts. Company-mandated political segments. For years, Sinclair has mandated that its local news affiliates across the country air centrally produced segments with a conservative viewpoint. These must-run segments have included commentary from former Trump administration officials. Favoring Republican viewpoints, the company has been accused of favoring Republican candidates and causes in its news coverage. Studies have shown that when Sinclair acquires a station, its coverage shifts to the right and increases its focus on national politics at the expense of local issues. The Guardian reported that Sinclair was using its stations to spread disinformation and manipulated video clips concerning Joe Biden. In September of 2025, Sinclair made headlines for its reaction to comments made by Jimmy Kimmel demanding an apology and a donation to the conservative group. And it goes on and on and on. Here's what we're going to do. We're not going to watch any of their shit anymore. You're going to go to their website. I'm going to show you right here. sbgi.net. Just go to the website. Then you're going to go to the interactive map, click on your state, and find out all of the local stations that are owned by Sinclair. And then you know what you're going to do, just to make it easy, because sometimes we forget, we get busy? block the stations. You know you can do that on your cable, right? On your TV. If you don't know how, just go grab a nearby Gen Z, or they'll figure it out for you. That way you can be sure never to watch any of their stations. Let all of these shows that air on their stations have their viewership tank.
Let's take a closer look at one of the companies that convinced ABC to remove Jimmy Kimmel from TV. Nexstar Corporation has over 200 local TV stations around the United States. The company tends to give much more to the Republican Party than the Democratic Party. And it's not just their leaders and employees. The company gives a significant sum of money through political action committees. Here are some ways you can protest and hit Nexstar's bottom line. First and foremost, they're a publicly traded company. Make sure if they are currently in your portfolio of investments, you divest the company as soon as possible. Make sure to check out your local TV stations to ensure they're not owned by Nexstar or Sinclair. If they are, make sure you don't watch anything on their channels to sink their ratings. And finally, Nexstar owns some of its own TV channels, so make sure you avoid watching any of these channels, including The Hill, CW TV, News Nation, Rewind TV, and Antenna TV.
Yeah, so you see that, you heard that. This is a big deal, okay? And I'm going to tell you guys why it's a big deal, because it's not just liberals participating in cancel culture, right? Which is something they claim they're against, but yet they're literally trying to cancel these broadcast groups who have decided they don't want to associate with Jimmy Kimmel, which is a part of free speech, right? That is a part of free speech. And they're trying to cancel these news stations over their free speech. But again, this is a big deal because liberals don't just cancel you, right, by boycotts. They also threaten you with violence, okay, which is what happened to the Sacramento ABC affiliate station that was subject to a drive-by by a Trump-deranged radical lunatic.
64-year-old Anibal Hernandez Santana spent only 7 hours outside of a jail cell before his second arrest Saturday at the same River Park apartment complex where he lives.
We were working on his case, actually, and talking on the phone, had several conversations, and around 8:30, after one of our phone conversations, he stepped outside of his apartment, and the FBI was there, and they arrested him.
His charges stem from a Friday shooting into the lobby of ABC 10 studios. People were inside, but no one was injured. Sacramento police first arrested Hernandez Santana hours after on suspicion of assault with a deadly weapon, shooting into an occupied dwelling, and negligent discharge of a firearm. Police have not released a motive for the shooting. Hernandez Santana posted bail on Saturday, hours before the FBI arrest on suspicion of violating a federal statute that relates to interfering with federally licensed stations.
Right now, I don't have anything to go on to say whether they've got the right person or not.
Hernandez Santana's attorney says he is a recently retired lobbyist and Army veteran. Neighbors know him as Al, describing him Saturday as quiet and reserved. Facebook and X accounts matching the suspect's name and pictures posted frequently, often criticizing the Trump administration. In the past week, posts were daily. One post from the same account Wednesday read, quote, "I started carrying a gun when Trump was elected president the first time. Still do."
I haven't seen him, and I understand. I mean, I think it's not a completely uncommon. I mean, I'm on social media a lot and reading comments, and from both sides, really, there are some comments that are, I wouldn't say extreme, but that show a lot of passion. I understand the concern that people would have, but they're not uncommon.
For people who do see your clients' posts on social media and would consider them radical, what would be your response to them?
Well, look, if his social media points are considered radical by you, I guess it depends on your perspective. So, I mean, there's a lot of this stuff that's said by the president. I mean, and if you have to consider that radical also.
With the FBI now involved, Reichel believes politics are at play.
I think the president and the Trump Justice Department and Pam Bondi aren't going to let this one go by. Of course, they're going to grab it and try to bring it into federal court as soon as they can, because they've got somebody who's an educated liberal who, they believe shot at the building.
Yeah, so you see that, you heard that. Okay, clearly, this guy's attorney, the suspect's attorney, is full of shit, because we do know who did it. We also know the motive behind it, right? We know that this was done in protest of ABC canceling Jimmy Kimmel, right? The local affiliates canceling Jimmy Kimmel. We know that's why it was done. Also, there was a note with Patel and Bondi's name in the car. Basically, there's indications that this guy was not only targeting ABC, but he also was going to target Kash Patel and Pam Bondi, according to the DOJ. Now, this comes after Democrats, right, in California decided to release this guy on bond, right? So they decided that, you know what, this guy who just committed an act of domestic terrorism, shooting up an ABC studio, yeah, we should just let him walk free, right? We shouldn't keep this guy, right? But at the same time, there was a note left in his car that suggests that he was going to go after Trump administration officials. He was going to assassinate Trump administration officials. Now, thank God the FBI picked this guy up. The dude's attorney is claiming that it's political. But again, this guy was plotting assassinations. And for whatever reason, this story is not the biggest story on mainstream liberal media, despite the fact that just a couple weeks ago, Charlie Kirk, a conservative civil rights activist, was assassinated. And now you have these local affiliates being subject to drive-bys and another potential assassination plot. And again, it seems as if this story is just flying under the radar, right? Nobody's talking about the fact that we have yet again another left-wing domestic terrorist that was plotting to kill people, that tried to kill people, right? Let's read here. The anti-Trump gunman who fired several shots at a California ABC station left a handwritten note. He was targeting several other members of President Donald Trump's administration, including Attorney General Pam Bondi, FBI Director Kash Patel, and FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino. Annabelle Hernandez-Santana, the 64-year-old suspected shooter, was arrested by the FBI on Saturday, one day after he opened fire on ABC 10 in Sacramento in a drive-by shooting. Hernandez-Santana was arrested by the FBI just hours after he posted $200,000 bail. Earlier on Saturday, after local police arrested him and charged him with several crimes, including assault with a deadly weapon. Yeah, this is insane. Absolutely insane. They decided, this guy that just committed an act of domestic terrorism, right? Yeah, let's just let this guy out, right? Let's let this guy walk free, okay? The Justice Department on Monday said it found a note in Hernandez's Santana's car. The note, according to law enforcement, said, quote, "For hiding Epstein and ignoring red flags, do not support Patel, Bongino, and AG Pam Bondi. They're next. CK from above." Yeah, so what we have here is clearly a note suggesting that Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, and Pam Bondi, all members of the Trump administration, they are targets for assassination, right? He was targeting them for assassination, for hiding Epstein and ignoring red flags. Now, again, this is what I've been telling you guys about these left-wing lunatics. You have a certain side of the political spectrum that, first and foremost, they believe that violence is justified to get what they want, right? For their political goals, they believe that violence is justified. Not only that, they have a high rate of self-reporting mental illness. So when you combine those two things, on top of the extreme rhetoric from the Democrat Party and the mainstream liberal media, this is what you get. This is why this is not a both sides issue, because only one side supports political violence and only one side self-reports to be mentally ill. So when you combine those two things with the extremist rhetoric from the mainstream liberal media and the Democrat Party, this is the result. This is the result. I've identified what the problem is. The problem is, again, these people believe in violence and they're mentally ill. Democrats are radicalizing these people and they're acting on the radicalization. This guy's talking about Epstein. Well, who's been boohoo whining and crying about Epstein for the past, 4 or 5 months? Democrats and the mainstream liberal media, who, by the way, didn't care about Epstein at all for the last 4 years, right? They didn't care at all. Now, all of a sudden, they're Epstein crusaders, right? And this Epstein crusade has radicalized people, their base, to commit acts of violence. The note comes after Variety reported over the weekend that Hernandez-Santana's X account contained a steady stream of anti-Trump commentary. Again, this should be the top news story in the country. We have yet again another left-wing domestic terrorist. Why is this not the top news story in the country? Quote, "Where is a good heart attack when we need it the most? Please join in my thoughts and prayers for the physical demise of our fearful leader," Hernandez-Santana posted last Thursday. And in July, Variety found posts where he said he is ready to, quote, fight like hell to oppose the Trump administration. His attorney, Mark Richel, told the local station in Sacramento that Hernandez Santana is being overly scrutinized because of his anti-Trump post. Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's been overly scrutinized. I think he's been under scrutinized because, honestly, this story should be the #1 story in the country right now, and we should be having conversations about why is it that we continue to see these radicalized lunatics on the left committing these acts of violence. So, FBI Director Kash Patel on Monday morning posted on X that Hernandez Santana was taken into custody under a federal hold for interference with licensed broadcast. He added, quote, targeted acts of violence are unacceptable and will be pursued to the fullest extent of the law. Yeah, so I think that we all know what's going on here, right? The fact that the liberal media is ignoring this, in my opinion, means that they're complicit. This should be the biggest news story in the country. Once again, we have another left-wing domestic terrorist, and this is why it's not a both sides issue. This is why I explicitly reject this both sides gaslighting that frequently comes from the mainstream liberal media and Democrats, especially, again, when leftists commit acts of violence, because it's not a both sides issue. People on the right do not believe in political violence, okay? And also on top of that, people on the right do not self-report being mentally unwell, right? They don't do that. So, yeah, you might say that, well, the rhetoric on the right is also radical as well, too. The rhetoric on the right also is out of control. And it's like, well, the difference is that conservatives aren't acting on that rhetoric, right? If I call you a communist, that doesn't radicalize people to go and kill people, right? That's not what's happening, okay? But on the left, if you call somebody a fascist, okay, yeah, that will radicalize them. And you've seen people go and try to kill people and try to assassinate people because of that. That's the difference, okay? That's the difference. So, again, this is not a both sides issue. It's really mainly a left side issue. And until we address that, until we acknowledge the truth, unfortunately for the country, unfortunately for conservatives, we're going to continue to be targeted because the left-wing liberal media and Democrats refuse to address a problem with their side of the aisle, right? The fact that these people are doing stuff like this, they continue to ignore it at the expense of people losing their lives. It's really shameful stuff. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.